Hi, folks. This is Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D. for the Institute for Dialectical Metarealism. Well, right now, Joe Biden and his advisors are in his war room. The war with Iran has begun. What a tragedy. How many more innocent lives will now be taken by Israel? This is the excuse that the Zionist entity was waiting for. This is the opportunity that Israel was attempting to cultivate to draw the US into a war with Iran. It has now started. I will, beginning in a moment, read you portions of an article from The Guardian which summarizes much of what has happened since that fateful time when Iran launched its weapons at Israel. But I wanted to say first how much I grieve for the Iranians, the innocent Iranians who have done nothing, who, unlike the Israelis, were not looking for a war. But now they have one. I don't know what to say at this point, to be perfectly honest. I'm sure that as I have time to process this more in my head, when I go to sleep, if I can go to sleep, I will attempt to deal with this more in the morning and see where the chips have fallen. But, my friends, this is nothing good. It is nothing good. I mean, it's not like it was unexpected. It was expected. But when it actually happens, and you see the beginning of an Israel-Iran war, which, in my opinion, and it is only my opinion, and I hope I am wrong, as I indicated in my previous podcast, I think that this particular day may be remembered as the beginning of World War III. Now, I hope I'm overreacting, and I'm sure some people will tell me that I am, because there are a number of people that I need to call in the morning, people I know from my childhood, people that I've known for years and years and years from different places where I've worked. But I can't imagine how how they will be able to see the situation any differently from myself. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope that they can talk me out of the sense of devastation that I feel that has consumed me. The sad thing is, for me, and who cares about me, but still, that it's too late for me to call anyone now. It is now precise time here, 1:02 p.m. a.m. rather, Central Daylight Time. I can't call somebody in the middle of the night. I would imagine that they don't yet know about this, and good. Let them have a good night's sleep and wake up and find out about it when they awaken. That's probably for the best. The fact that I know, I guess, is attributable to the fact that I am a late sleeper. Otherwise, I would be in that same situation. Rather than me rambling, which I'm doing, I know I'm rambling, let me go ahead and read you portions of this article from The Guardian. Here is the headline. Iran launches drone and missile strike against Israel as Biden rushes back to White House. The subtitle. U.S. President convenes top advisors as U.S. and Jordanian forces help Israel intercept barrage. When I think of Jordan right now, I have, and for a long time have seen them as traitors, pure traitors. They simply don't care. Their objective is to protect Israel. Will they try to protect Iran? When Israel launches its retaliatory strike, to the retaliatory strike on the embassy in Syria? I doubt it. I doubt it. That is not King Hussein of Jordan. That is not what he is made of. He is about as pro-Western as they come. So I have no optimism about that. Nor am I particularly optimistic about other Arab states, whether Egypt, Kuwait, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, etc. Because they're primarily Sunni, and Iran is Shia. Now, there have been times when some countries have been willing to put that aside. Maybe this will be one of them. It's too early to know. Will they simply take a back seat and watch? Or will they do something to protect the victim of the Zionist entity? I don't know, but I haven't seen any statements yet, anyway, by those leaders making any assertions to that effect. And I doubt that will happen, to be perfectly honest. I really doubt it. Okay. Let me get to the article. Iran said it launched dozens of drones and ballistic missiles toward Israel on Saturday in a major attack following days of acute tension building up in the region and warnings from the US and elsewhere about a wider conflict erupting. Air attack warning sirens began wailing over Jerusalem just before 2 a.m. local time on Sunday, after the weapons were fired a few hours earlier from Iran, with US and Jordanian military assisting Israel's air defenses in intercepting the first incoming barrage. With weapons believed to still be in the air en route to Israel, Iran's mission to the United Nations posted on X, formerly Twitter. Iran's military action was in response to the Zionist regime's aggression against our diplomatic premises in Damascus. Yeah. That's exactly what happened. The matter can be deemed concluded. Well, oh my goodness. The matter can be deemed concluded. From Iran's perspective, I imagine that's true. They have taken an action which, from their perspective, they're saying, and I have no reason to doubt them, is a direct response to what Israel did to sovereign Iranian territory in Damascus, Syria, the Iranian embassy. But the matter can be deemed concluded not to Israel, not to Israel, not to the US, not to France, and not to many other countries as well. The war is just beginning. It has not concluded. Certainly, I think Iran would like to think it is concluded. It has done what it has done in retaliation, which is what happens in war. But when you do that against monsters, political monsters, are they going to deem the matter concluded? No, of course not. The matter is sadly not concluded, but I wish that Iran were correct. However, it threatened more severe action in the face of further Israeli aggression and warned the US and Jordan specifically not to assist Israel. Lots of luck there. Nevertheless, the United States military and Jordanian fighter jets shot down some Iranian drone aircraft, officials said. And the US Embassy in Jerusalem told all US government employees to shelter in place until further notice, according to a security alert posted on Saturday. which is now my time, yesterday. Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, an Israeli military spokesperson, had earlier said that Iran launched the new offensive late on Saturday. Obviously, that's in their own time zones. It was the Islamic Republic's first ever direct attack on the Jewish state, a development that brings the two countries to the brink of all-out conflict after more than a decade of a shadow war, which again is obviously a reference to Hezbollah, and soaring stress 6 months into Israel's war in Gaza, following the Hamas attack last October. It was reported on Israeli television that Iran had launched more than 100 drones as well as cruise missiles towards Israel. And Iran later said it had fired a first wave of ballistic missiles. Joe Biden rushed back to Washington on Saturday afternoon from a weekend trip to Delaware, as it became clear from leadership signals that some sort of attack by Iran was imminent. The Iranian weapons were launched just a few hours after the White House had first announced the US president was returning to Washington from a planned weekend at the beach in Delaware to consult with his national security team about events in the Middle East. There had been nearly 2 weeks of speculation about when, where, and how Tehran or its proxy forces in Syria, Iraq, and Yemen would respond to an April 1st Israeli strike on an Iranian diplomatic building in the Syrian capital of Damascus, which killed General Mohammad Reza Zahedi, a senior figure in Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards, and 8 other officers. Biden soon made public that Israel had not shared its intentions with the US, and he had said that he had no prior knowledge of the strike in Syria, signaling that in addition to Israel's blockade on Gaza, provoking famine, US influence over Israel has limits. I would say so. In addition, Biden's hasty return to the White House on Saturday followed his saying on Friday that he expected an Iranian attack on Israel sooner rather than later, and issued a last-ditch message to Tehran saying, don't, which clearly was not heeded. Earlier on Saturday, Iran's paramilitary Revolutionary Guard Corps in the Strait of Hormuz, 50 nautical miles off the coast of the United Arab Emirates, the UAE, seized an Israeli-affiliated container ship. The ship's operator, the Italian group MSC, later confirmed that Iranian authorities had boarded it, rappelling from a helicopter. The White House condemned the seizure of the British-owned vessel. National Security Council spokesperson Adrienne Watson, said the U.S. strongly condemned the seizure and urged Iran to release the ship and crew immediately, calling the incursion a violation of international law and an act of piracy? Pause. So the Israeli bombing of the Iranian embassy in Damascus, Syria, was not a violation of international law? Why weren't similar condemnations made by the U.S. to Israel after what it did? Obviously, my question is rhetorical. There is no real answer to that question. Upon returning to the White House, Biden walked into the Oval Office and then convened a top-level meeting in the Situation Room. According to the White House, the president was joined by Lloyd Austin, the Defense Secretary, Antony Blinken, the Secretary of State, General Charles Brown, the chair of the Joint Chiefs of State, William Burns, the CIA director, Avril Haines, the director of National Intelligence, and Jake Sullivan, the National Security Advisor. All heavyweights, in case you didn't know that. I'm sure most of you do, but in case some of you don't, that's like the top of the brass, nothing higher than that. That's the top, meaning the U.S. is taking this very, very seriously. And when a country like the U.S., and really there are no countries quite like the U.S. anymore, but still, I'll put it that way. When a country like the U.S. calls a meeting of its top brass like that, it can't be anything good. It can't be anything good. Austin spoke with Yoav Gallant, the Israeli defense minister, earlier on Saturday to discuss the urgent regional threats to the Middle East and reiterated unwavering U.S. support for Israel's defense, according to the Pentagon. I don't even know what to say to that. Unwavering U.S. support for Israel's defense. I'm not even sure that he knows what he is saying. Maybe he does. Maybe. But given the behavior of Israel in recent months, given the clear desire on the part of Israel to begin this war with Iran, which now has begun, saying that the U.S. has committed unwavering support to Israel, means that the U.S. has just tonight, entered into a new war. This will be a day that will always be remembered, and not in a way that is anything good. Let me continue. After the attacks began, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, said Israel has been preparing for the direct attack by Iran Our defensive systems are deployed. We appreciate. Appreciate? Stupid word is that. We appreciate the U.S. standing alongside Israel, as if anything else could be expected from that monster Joe Biden, as well as the support of Britain, France, and many other countries. Oh, yeah, I expect the list will grow. It'll grow. The U.S. House of Representatives will make a change in its schedule to consider legislation that supports Israel and holds Iran accountable. The House Majority Leader Steve Scalise said in a statement on yesterday, barely yesterday. It was unclear whether Scalise was referring to a standalone bill to aid Israel or the $95 billion supplemental spending bill that includes $14 billion for Israel, in addition to $60 billion for Ukraine, support for Taiwan, and billions of dollars in humanitarian assistance, which has been held back from a vote by House Republicans. That is the story. It was a short story. That's why I picked it. Short and to the point. Typical in the style of The Guardian, which is one of the reasons I like The Guardian most of the time, because they don't beat around the bush. They say everything very directly. They explain exactly what's happening, and they don't say anything which is off topic. They don't drift away from the main thing under consideration and start discussing unrelated matters. But what happens from here? I don't know. No one really knows. Wars cannot be predicted. It doesn't matter how much power you have, whether you're Bibi Netanyahu or the governments of the US and Iran. These kinds of things cannot really be predicted. We can look at various possibilities, although I, unfortunately, do not, at least yet, have enough information to do that. Hopefully, I will soon, and when I do, I will try my best to make a more detailed analysis of the situation. In the opening hours of any conflict, there is always confusion. But there is no confusion that the war has started. The war really started with Israel bombing the Iranian embassy in Damascus, Syria. That was the beginning of the war, not what happened tonight, or what will happen likely later today and in subsequent days. I mean, Iran must know that Israel, with the assistance of the US, maybe Jordan, France, Britain, and other countries will soon be launching offensives of their own on Iran. The thing which comes to mind is that horrendous song that was sung by the late Senator John McCain, Bomb, Bomb, Iran. Good John, good John, from behind the grave, you have now gotten your wish. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Fortunately for you, you will not have to bear the immediate consequences. There is no threat to you personally. As to the rest of us, the same claim can't be made. Since no one really can predict what will happen in cases like this, in cases where a war has just started, there is no way of knowing what direction or directions the war will take in subsequent hours, days, weeks, months. No way of knowing it all. But it is clear, I think, that the war will accelerate. I mean, regardless of whether any of those Iranian bombs hit their intended targets in Israel, really doesn't matter. Really doesn't matter. Because either way, Israel now has the excuse, the manufactured excuse it had been looking for to begin a war with Iran. Does Netanyahu care? Well, I can't get inside his mind and heart, but I doubt it. Given what that monster has done in previous conflicts, his willingness to kill babies in incubators in Gaza, how can a man like that, who was barely even a man, care about the loss of life which is about to take place on such a wide scale in Iran? And to repeat what I have said before, I have a lot of Iranian friends. All of them now live in the US. I don't have any Iranian friends who are in Iran. I have some people that I correspond with that are in various Facebook groups I am in who are in Iran, but I can't say I know them. But I do know a lot of Iranians here who have families back in Iran. And for various reasons, these Iranians living in the US cannot realistically go back to Iran. If they did, there could be serious repercussions for them and their families, both. And so I imagine myself in that kind of situation where a major war has started against the country of my birth, the country where much of my family still resides. And yet, I cannot be with them. Maybe I can Zoom with them, Skype with them, talk with them on the phone, FaceTime with them. I am not an Apple person, so my knowledge of FaceTime is very little. But I can't imagine that. I can't. It is hard for me even to imagine the situations of the Iranians I know who are most likely right now, if they are aware of it and not sleeping, only to find out about it several hours from now, how they are feeling right at this moment or in several hours. It is not a situation I would wish on anyone. And yet here is where we are. So, in conclusion, for now, is this, as I said at the beginning of this podcast, the beginning of World War III? I don't know. I don't want to raise unnecessary concerns or, as I said, to create a situation of mass panic. I don't. Nothing can be solved by that. So I really can't say anything except I don't know. I don't know. I was talking about this with my neighbor today, that there will likely be an Iranian attack on the Zionist entity sometime in the next couple of days. He had no reaction, no immediate reaction. But what reaction can anyone really have? As a sociologist, as someone with a degree in journalism, as a Maoist third worldist, as a Bhaskarian critical realist, I have a basis from which to respond. And as this continues, I will be talking using those backgrounds that I have. I think especially critical realism, because if there was ever a condition in which the world was in a state of complete and total demi-reality, this is it. This is it. This is the time that Roy Bhaskar feared. This is the reason why Roy Bhaskar was very pessimistic about the future. Perhaps one of the reasons I was attracted to Roy Bhaskar and his critical realism and his philosophy of meta-reality is because of our shared pessimism, our shared cynicism, but also our shared love. I love the third world. And now we are about to see a large portion of that third world devastated. Whether it will be on the same scale as what happens in Gaza, I don't know. but it won't be good. That I think we can be pretty sure of, considering that the Zionist entity has literally wanted this opportunity for years. Opportunity to slaughter people. He has wanted it. Well, King Bibi. Well, King Bibi. Now you will get your wish. But I don't envy you. Especially when you leave this mortal frame and pass on to the great beyond. I do not envy you. I do not envy you at all. We will all be judged for our actions. And I think one of those actions is how each of us as individuals responds to what has just happened and what will happen later today and tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. How will I respond? I think I know. One way is by making these podcasts, because there really isn't much else of concrete substance that I can do. But we can all make sure that we have our hearts in the right place, that our hearts are turned to the people of Iran and not to the Zionist entity. I could care less about the Zionist entity. I don't care about it. I'm not saying I wish any harm to come to people there, because that would be against my nature. I don't wish harm to come to anyone. That's my point. And yet, harm is exactly what's going to happen. I don't see a way around it. Given the fact that I have nothing else of substance to say, but I assume I will in the coming hours or days or however long it takes for this great unraveling to proceed, for this possible explosion of World War III to continue. I will keep on talking. That's all I can do is talk. And please don't let this be World War III. Please don't let it be World War III. How sad, how tragic for all the people, for all the babies and incubators in Iran that will likely die as well. How tragic for them. How tragic for you and all of us. And even how tragic it is for me. For the time being, this has been Mark, by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D., for the Institute for Dialectical Meta-Realism. I was going to say have a pleasant day, as I ordinarily say, but how can I say that? And a better day tomorrow? Yeah, I guess that I can say. A better day, maybe. I hope. Goodbye for now.